had a good break and a good lunch. I would like to introduce Jennifer Rees, who is a forensics lecturer and psychotherapist, and is here today to talk about cults and isolation and cults in Britain. And that's something you just think it's American, but no, it's going to be all about this. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Before I start, I just want to say thank you to everyone who bought a ticket for today. I'm actually on the board of trustees for Signpost, so I see firsthand what wonderful, vital work you are supporting. So thank you. So today I'm going to talk about another interest of mine. I'm going to talk about cults. So let me start by asking you, what's the first word or thought that comes to your mind when you hear the word cult?
Brainwashing.
Brainwashing, yeah.
Wacko.
Wacko.
Loonies.
Loonies.
Moonies.
Moonies. Yep. Very
Religion.
famous. Religion. Terrorism. Yeah. Yeah, really common words are coming up. So what I thought I would start with is by addressing some of the biggest or most common misconceptions which I hear from people. The first is that they're rare. People seem to think that this is a fringe area of psychology, that there's not many people who have the psychological proclivity of getting involved with cults, having that. Sometimes it's perceived as weakness of mind. And another key one is that people think it's a social problem in America. Cults. So I've got a couple of statistics for you. Per capita, the UK has just as big a cult problem as the US. The Centre for Information on Cults, which is a UK-based charity which provide information, advice and guidance for cult survivors, their friends, their family, as well as information for researchers and the media, have put the number between 500 and 1,000 cults currently active in the UK. So it is not a rare problem whatsoever. Okay? The third misconception is that people often think that cults, when they do occur, arise with horrific physical or sexual violence. And make no mistake, that absolutely is the case with some cults. But for the vast majority, it's actually a lot more innocuous than that. So people join these cults and gradually they're encouraged to work long shifts, day in, day out, with very little breaks, and all of their money goes towards furthering the cause of the cult, whatever that is. They're discouraged from speaking to family and friends who decline to join the cult themselves. They're discouraged from educating themselves and using the internet. And so what happens is that they become very insular in their lives. Their lives become very limited. But if the reality is much more innocuous in the main, and if these people are joining cults of their own volition, why is it that we should look at trying to prevent this from happening? Why is it such a big focus for me? Well, the first thing for me is that I think life is so precious. And these people are living very limited lives because they're good people. These are people who want to dedicate their lives to a good cause. And they are being taken advantage of. And these people are spending 10, 20, sometimes 30 years in a cult, dedicating themselves to a cause which, unfortunately, is not happening. What is happening instead is that they are just funding a particular lifestyle for the cult leader. The second reason that I think it's a really important issue is because of the people who often get forgotten about when we think of this issue, which is the friends and family members of those cult members. A lot of families describe it as being more difficult to accept than death, and some in fact refer to it as a living bereavement. Now, those of you here today with a background in psychology may well have heard of the term ambiguous loss, which is where there has been a bereavement or a loss, where there's no closure or a lack of information. And so what happens is it means that that process of bereavement becomes much more complex and challenging for that individual to overcome. Cults are common for two reasons. they answer two universal human needs. And the first is that they give people a purpose. And the second is that they give people a sense of belonging. And belonging is so key to this issue. When it comes to looking at why it is that we seek out group membership, evolutionary psychologists point to the fact that we evolved as pack animals. We would have to rely on certain members of our tribe, way back in the day, to go and hunt. And we had to trust them that they would bring back the food to share amongst us. And similarly, whilst they were out hunting, they had to trust other members of the pack to take care of their offspring and their property whilst they were away. And so what happens is we've evolved to have this mindset, this community mindset, and we seek it out. Because to be isolated or rejected from that group, when faced with a predator or a fierce winter, all of a sudden, you're looking at very possible death. And so that is why evolutionary psychologists believe we find it so difficult to be on our own, to be isolated, and why we'll seek acceptance from a group. A few years ago, researchers did a study where they recruited a lot of participants and they put them into a job that wasn't theirs, that they didn't need, and the task was simple. You had one day to get fired, and you could get fired in any way that you wanted to. You could use your imagination and be very creative about what you did. If you were successful in getting fired in that first day, then not only were you given a prize, but you were given a monetary reward. Okay, so that sounds like fun, right? You get to act like an idiot all day, get sacked, and then get some money for it. But what researchers found was that actually those who were successful found it emotionally painful to be ejected from that company at the end of the day. They still felt the emotion of being rejected. And so this just goes to show how ingrained it is in us to seek out acceptance and avoid rejection. Researchers have looked at what are the characteristics that might pertain to getting involved with cults. And another key misconception that people have is that you're more vulnerable to being recruited if you have a lower IQ. And actually, researchers have found the opposite is true. The higher your IQ, the longer you are likely to spend in your cult. And the reason for that is because your level of IQ being higher means that you are more adequately able to explain away the inevitable contradictions that occur in cult life. So I'll give you an example. One cult leader I spoke to said she was at the annual summit for her cult in a London hotel, and she just happened to be walking past the kitchen when she witnessed her cult leader having a massive tantrum in the kitchen. He was shouting and swearing and throwing things, being abusive to the staff, and she found herself thinking, well, hang on, you're deity, you're divine. This isn't how gods act. And so what did she do to resolve this conflict, to consolidate both of these conflicting issues? She turned it in on herself. Who is she to question him? This is a weakness of character in her. She's showing a lack of faith. She better make sure she doesn't show that to anyone else. And that actually takes quite a lot of introspection. It takes quite a lot of analytical thinking to be able to challenge yourself like that. But what happens is that over time, that's really damaging to your self-esteem. People who leave cults tend to have a lot of the same psychological issues that we would see when we're counselling people who are leaving domestic violence relationships. They experience guilt and fear and remorse. But in addition to that, they have all these practical elements they need to overcome. Many of them have never had to pay rent or fill out a tax return or budget or do the food shop. They find themselves out of touch with the modern world in which they must now live. And so all of these practical elements combined with the psychological elements that they're having to be faced with and having to deal with all in one go is incredibly challenging. So learning to treat this, learning to help as counsellors with these issues is so important. We had a really, really sad reminder this week in London with the attack on Westminster as to how prevalent and how serious these issues can be. The words recruitment, indoctrination, brainwashing, radicalisation are in some cases words that are used interchangeably, and sometimes correctly so. If we are learning as a society how to help these people, how to educate these people, then that's a really key step in prevention. They say at events like this to stay away from politics, but I'm going to be brave. A couple of weeks ago in The Independent, Dr. Alexandra Steen, who actually I went on a training course with, she was a cult survivor herself, who then went on to get her PhD in social psychology, and now is an author and researcher of cult psychology. And she wrote an article which, in part, drew attention to some of the techniques used by the Trump administration and drawing parallels to how these are used in cult psychology. She pointed to the fact that there was a them and us mentality which was constantly being encouraged. She pointed to the fact that they used the term alternative facts and denied science and denied facts, even in the face of photographic evidence and statistics in some cases. And the reason that I bring that up is that it's important to see that cult psychology is applicable to other areas of society. It may seem a little bit dramatic for me to talk about terrorism and international politics when discussing UK cult problems, but actually my argument is this. Cult psychology is often seen as a fringe area of psychology, but it actually has quite prevalent answers to help us tackle some of the key issues in which society are dealing with today. And so if we are able to understand, then we are able to educate. And what that means going forward is that we can protect people from situations escalating. To continue with the political example, last year at the One Young World Summit, an ex-KP from North Korea stood up and spoke about life living in North Korea. And the parallels to cult psychology were clear to me. There's one TV channel, internet is banned, education is incredibly restricted, reading, viewing materials are incredibly restricted. And what happened? Society got to the point where public executions were being performed on people who had committed the crime of watching Hollywood films. These are really real issues, and it's a really real element of human psychology. By educating people, we can install these alarm bells in people so they can protect themselves before it ever starts. So that the second they join a group, a religion, whatever, that are encouraging them to do things like stop hanging around with their friends or withdraw from their family, that alarm bell is ringing instantly. And that means that we can protect people from ever getting damaged, abused and used in the first place. And so that is why I am passionate about this issue. Thank you.